everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I wanted to sit down and have a chat about 10 things that I do in my life which I feel really simplify my life, make it easier and make it less stressful. They are things that I actively choose to do and decide to do for myself in order to minimize stress and make for as simple a life as possible. And the reason it works is because these are areas that I can control in my life. We've got things in our lives that we can't control that perhaps bring us stress, which is why it's so important that we capitalize on the things that we can control in order to simplify our lives. And the more I thought about it, there are things on my list that I feel like people don't do, and they are knowingly not doing them. They understand that by not doing them, they could potentially be causing additional stress in their life. But for whatever reason in their circumstances, they still don't choose to do these things. But I honestly feel like they do make for an easier and less stressful life if we control these areas that we can control. So I'm going to jump right in. And number one is to avoid drama at work. For the vast majority of us, our jobs are such a big and important part in our lives. To be honest, whether or not you enjoy your job, it still plays a big part. You spend a large amount of your time there. It's the thing that we rely on to pay our bills, and it's generally where we apply a lot of our skills and develop our skills. And so having a good work life is really important. Now, whether you enjoy your job or not, that is separate from the point I want to make. But what I'm getting at is ensuring I don't cause any drama at work. So I don't get involved in any conflict unnecessarily. I don't participate in workplace gossip. I generally follow my job description to a T so that I know I'm completing the tasks that are set out for me and I'm meeting the basic expectations outlined in my job description. If beyond those things you wanted to do more, I'm the go above and beyond type anyway, then that's entirely up to you. Another example is I would never go to my boss to complain about something being wrong or to seek support if I'm having difficulty without having thought out sensible solutions. In today's society, where in a lot of workplaces people are feeling overworked and they're feeling underpaid, and it all comes down to a bigger sort of financial system and the way the economy is, companies or organizations can't necessarily afford to pay more. They have fewer staff to do this amount of work, and so everyone ends up doing more work. And I get all of that. I personally feel like I'm pretty snowed under at work, but I would never approach a situation that I'm finding quite negative without having thought about solutions, because I'm not going to go into a meeting and expect somebody else to solve all my problems. It is still my job and it is still what I'm being paid to do. And so I would always make sure I'm trying to be proactive in seeking solutions if I was having difficulty. I always try my hardest, even if I'm personally having a bad day, to be the best version of myself at work. So I can walk away from my job at the end of every day knowing that I haven't done something particularly wrong. I'm not going to get caught out. I'm not going to be left feeling stressed about it, that I have basically done all I could do in that day. And that way I don't have to worry, because I don't want to worry about the thing that pays my bills. That is crucial to me. And so I really struggle to understand why anyone would participate in anything that could cause unnecessary drama in their workplace. Number two is that I only maintain positive relationships in my life. I am very close with my parents and my sister, and then with all members of my family, I would say I've built positive relationships. With some of them I'm not as close as others, but I just maintain this general feeling of positivity. We see each other when we can, we communicate well, and even if there's drama going on in the family between other people, I will always stay out of it. I consider, it's nothing to do with me, and I honestly don't want to be involved with it. In terms of my friendships and other personal relationships, again, drama-free. I don't even really have what you would call a circle of friends anymore. It's more like individual people that I have become friends with over various points in my life, whether that's from school or uni or in the workplace. The biggest, I would say, group of friends I have is 4 of us. But even outside of that, I do sometimes see those people separately. I don't always see them as a group. And I just don't get involved in any sort of drama. If I had a friendship that really turned sour, I would have the conversation. I'd say, look, we need to sort this out. If we can't be supportive of each other, if we can't be happy for each other, whatever it is really, then maybe that's where that friendship needs to end. But in terms of making friendships and keeping friendships, I think I generally gravitate towards people that feel the same way as me. They can't be doing with drama, and that the friendship means more to them than, you know, petty arguments and falling out. In terms of more personal relationships, as some of you know, I came out of a long-term relationship because it was having a negative impact on my life. It wasn't bringing me positivity anymore. And despite the fact that I was in a very secure circumstance, I honestly felt that it was better for me to get out of that relationship. And you know, as I start to explore more personal relationships again, I will only be in relationships that are good for me. I'm not going to be in relationships that would make me feel bad about myself in any way, that would give me any sort of negative feelings or worry. I just don't think it's worth it. So I always try to maintain positive relationships, and I would cut myself out of any that were causing me more problems and more stress than happiness. Number 3 is to build an emergency fund. So coming back onto the financial side, because money does play such a big part in our lives and is one of the main stress factors for so many people. But if you're not consciously trying to build yourself an emergency fund for those times when things go wrong, you're not exactly helping yourself out in terms of your stress levels in a financial respect. I've come into pretty hard times where I had to basically spend my entire emergency fund, and now I'm in the process of rebuilding that. But if I hadn't had that emergency fund, the stress on me would have been insane. I don't know if I'd have come out of it at the other end, or if it would have basically destroyed me and destroyed the life as I know it. I relied so much on having that emergency fund, which is why I will never not have one. I will always be working as a priority to build up that emergency fund for those times when you need it. And knowing I've got that to fall back on if something goes wrong takes off a massive amount of stress. Number 4 is that I utilize a chore tracker. This isn't an app, it's nothing fancy, and I just put it together myself. It is a spreadsheet, and it breaks down all the chores I want to keep on top of in my house. I have a small section of things I like to do weekly, a small section of things I like to do fortnightly, a small section of things I like to do monthly, and a small section of things that I need to do yearly. And I just cross them off as I go. I put the week at the top, and if I completed those in that week, I just highlight the cell in that column green. If it's something that didn't get done and it should have got done, I put that in red. And then as a natural follow on from that, if it's something I feel needs urgent attention, the following week I'll put a yellow box to draw my attention to that. And honestly, it's really helped in just keeping on top of all my household chores, remembering the things that you might forget, and then when you get round to them, you realise it's a bit worse than it would have been if you'd have kept on top of it. And it's just really, really handy rather than trying to have to remember everything, and keeping track of when you last did something. So is it due for another go? And it's super simple. Doesn't need anything overcomplicated or fancy, and it does the job. Number 5 is to minimize clutter. For me, having a cluttered, untidy house would be such a big stressor. I know that's not the case for everybody, but just having a load of unnecessary stuff everywhere that makes your space look basically the opposite of calming, I find to be very stressful. I almost consider my house to be like my safe haven. You know, you've had a busy day at work, there's been a lot going on, or even a more positive, like you've been on a trip and you've had a great time, but you're coming home. When you're coming home and you're coming back into your space, that should be your place of calm, your place of rest, where if there are other stressors going on, you can relax. And so by having a clutter-free space, keeping things simple and minimal, I find that to be very calming, and knowing I can just come home and my space is not stressing me out just makes for everything to feel simpler and easier and better. Number 6 is that I always plan my day, every single day. If it's a weekday, I do that when I get to work. The first thing I do is I open up my diary and I take note of everything I need to do that day. What I will also usually do is plan parts of my week as well, so that I don't have to remember everything. And if something comes to mind that I need to do on days later in the week, I will just jot those down as well. And so as I'm going, I'm just building up this task list that I need to do every day. And it really helps to keep things productive, and it stops me forgetting about things. This leads back to the first point and making sure I do my job well, so that's not something I have to stress about. If I forgot to do something and someone was chasing me up, like, where is this? That would really stress me out. So I write down everything, absolutely everything, even the tiniest little thing that I've got to do. I write it down so I can't possibly forget it. But I know other people that don't. They don't write these things down, and then they end up forgetting about something minor, something important. I can't do that. So I write down everything, and that way I know everything I've got to do. I know that I'm not going to forget anything, and that's not going to cause me any stress. But also I can plan my day. I know how much time everything's going to take roughly, and I can just ensure that I am the most productive. I even do the same on weekends, and it depends what I'm doing. So if I'm at home and I'm filming videos, I'm editing videos, I will make sure I've scheduled in time to do those. Maybe I'm making content for Instagram. And also with other things, if I'm going out, I'll just make sure I've slotted those things in so I know how much time I've got to work around those things. Same for in the week, every evening I go to the gym, so I make sure I've put in time for that as well. And just by planning my day and knowing what I'm expecting of myself in that day allows me to pace myself and be productive. Number 7's a bit of a strange one, but it's to be flexible when the unexpected happens. And I think you have to have that if you live such a rigid life as I do. When you plan so much and expect things to go a particular way all the time, you've got to have the concept of flexibility in the back of your mind, that some days things are going to go wrong, whether it's a minor inconvenience or something massive that completely throws your day, your week, even your month, whatever it is, off track. You've got to be prepared to be flexible, because if you're not, then you're just going to end up being more stressed. Imagine if you suddenly couldn't get everything done that you'd planned to on this day, and that has a knock-on effect for the next however long it is, and you just let that ruin everything and everything fell apart. It wouldn't work. The system breaks down. So you've got to allow yourself some flexibility in order to deal with that and carry on. And I think just being aware, just being prepared that things can go wrong kind of helps you when things do go wrong, because eventually something will, and you've just got to be okay and prepared to accept that. Number 8 is I follow an exercise plan. There's a bit of a theme here. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of routines and schedules for everything. But following an exercise plan where I have figured out what works for me, and knowing I do this class on this day and this particular exercise on this day, knowing I'm training all the areas that I want to, means I don't have to think about it too much, and I don't have to obsess over it and worry if I'm, on track to meet this goal, if I'm going to gain weight, if I'm going to lose weight, if I'm building muscle. I don't want to have to stress about it. So by having a plan that works, that I just follow every day, and I know what I'm doing each day, means I don't have to worry about it and fixate on it. Because I think in the whole diet and exercise realm, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure to eat a certain way. There's a lot of pressure to look a certain way. There's a lot of pressure to train a certain way. And you can get really, really fixated on it. And there have been times for me where I have obsessed over it, and all that's done is ended up getting me down, because I realise all the things I'm not doing, that my diet might not be perfect, and it's not worth it. And so just by having an exercise plan that I know that works, and if I do that every day, I've made a positive impact on my overall fitness journey, then I'm good and I don't have to worry about it. In the same realm, I meal plan. So I plan my grocery shop. I've done a really big video about that recently. So I plan my grocery shop, I plan all my meals, so I know exactly what I'm eating. It saves worrying from one night to the next, like what am I cooking when I get home? I don't know. I already know for the whole week. It ties in again with the whole nutrition and diet and healthy lifestyle. Because I've planned those meals, I know what I'm eating. I know that I'm not letting my bad habits in terms of eating get out of control, because I've planned specifically what I'm going to eat. So again, it just minimizes stress. It's also cost efficient, and it minimizes waste. So that's another good side of meal planning. And my last one is that I have a capsule wardrobe, and so getting dressed in the morning is a lot easier because all your pieces tie together, and they work in different combinations, and it's just a lot easier to get ready in the morning. I don't worry about, is this workwear anymore or is this casual wear? I generally wear the same thing all the time, with the exception of sort of dressing up for more going out occasions. And it really does just simplify my mornings in terms of getting ready. I own fewer items, so the space is less cluttered, and I'm starting to own more high quality items, so I don't feel like my items are wearing, that they're starting to look scruffy, that I've got to repair them at the moment. Eventually I'm sure I will, but right now I don't. And so all of that just takes the pressure off and makes things a lot simpler. And those are my 10 things, and hopefully what you've noticed from that list, they are all things that I can control. They are all things that I actively choose to do and consciously choose to do in order to make my life easier and simpler, because they are the aspects of my life I can control. There are things I can't control that may bring me stress, which is why I've got to make the most of the things I can control in order to simplify my life. I hope you found some of these points useful. I hope you can incorporate some of them into your life in order to simplify. If you don't already, I'm all about minimizing stress so we can enjoy ourselves as much as possible. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, you can do so by clicking this button here. And if you're sticking around for another video, I will leave one here that I think you might enjoy. Until next time, take care. Bye.